This is our first video reviewing exponent rules. We're going to start out with just some terminology. If you have something like x to the power of n, that n is called the exponent, and that x, that part of it, would be called the base. So our first rule that we're going to take a look at is called the product rule. The product rule says that when we're multiplying like bases, that we keep the bases the same and we add the exponents. So this rule, when you write it out, is written out as x to the power of a times x to the power of b equals x to the power of a plus b. So we keep our base, which is x, the same, and we're just adding the exponents a and b together. So we would use that in something like number 1. If we have x to the 5th times x to the power of 7, that's going to equal x to the power of 5 plus 7. And that equals x to the power of 12. And that would be your answer. For something like number 2, we can still use that. If we look here, though, we have two different variables. So we're going to have to add the exponents for the x's and then add the exponents for the y separately. So we're going to have negative 8 times negative 9 times x to the power of 3 plus 3 times y to the power, and there's no exponent written for that first y, so we can assume that's to the power of 1. So that's 1 plus 2. And negative 8 times negative 9 gives us 72. X to the power of 6, y to the power of 3 for our answer. So that's how you would use the product rule. Pretty straightforward. The next thing we're going to look at is the power to a power rule. And that says that when you're raising a base to another power, we keep the base the same and multiply the exponents. So that rule is written out as if you have something like x to the power of a, and that is raised to the power of b, it equals x to the power of a times b. So in number 3 here, x to the power of 4 cubed, we can rewrite that as x to the power of 4 times 3, which equals x to the power of 12. And the last rule we're going to look at today is the product to a power rule. That says that when you raise a product to a power, you have to distribute that power to each factor. So if we had x times y, in parentheses, raised to the power of a, we would distribute that exponent, so it's x to the power of a and y to the power of a. So in our example below here, we have negative 3, x to the 4th, y to the 5th. That whole thing is squared. So that means I have to distribute that square to each of these factors. So I'm going to have negative 3 squared, x to the 4th squared, and y to the 5th squared. So that negative 3, x to the 4th, and y to the 5th, those each got squared. So negative 3 squared is going to give me a positive 9. X to the 4th squared, if you remember in that power to a power rule that we just discussed, we actually would multiply those exponents. So that's going to be x to the power of 4 times 2, which is 8, and y to the power of 5 times 2, which is 10. So my answer is 9x to the 8th, y to the 10th.